On this episode of Carnage, we're building a VN Commodore. That's right, we bought ourselves a VN Commodore, the greatest Australian achievement of the automotive age. It goes VN Commodore, AU Falcon, then the rest. Launched in 1988, the VN Commodore was groundbreaking for the Australian automotive industry. It had an American-designed V6 that had more power to the average Aussie driver than ever before, and they were hugely popular. In fact, they sold 215,000 of these things, and we're going to make this one even better. For those of you that have been watching our Carnage Plus videos, you'll know that we bought ourselves a VX S pack with a Supercharged Six, and it's got about 50 kilowatts more than this thing, but the potential for a whole lot more. So we're going to take the engine out of that car, stick it in this, and race it up against the guys from Max Performance who are building an EA Falcon with a Barra 6. So the EA is exactly the same era as the VN. It was EA versus VN. It's going to be like the 80s again. It's going to be awesome. So this particular car is a VN Berliner, which makes it a little bit more upmarket than your base model VN Executive. It's got power mirrors, power windows, cruise control, all the fruit. And we paid just over $4,000 for this thing, which makes it the most expensive car we have ever bought for Carnage. And you're probably all losing your mind. Why would you pay $4,000 for a VN V6? And that's because it was a one-owner car with just over 117,000 Ks on the clock, and it is an absolute beauty. And here we are. Zane has almost got his EA finished, so we should pull our fingers out and get this done. This is the L67 from our VX Commodore, and if you want to know more about that, go back and check out our Carnage Plus episodes. But we've pulled it down, we're waiting on a couple parts. They should be here shortly from Mace Engineering. So we're going to do rod bolts, head studs, head gaskets, all that sort of stuff, toughen this thing up a little bit, and then feed it some boost. To start off with, we're just going to go with a supercharger, see how we go with that, and then eventually work our way up to turbo and more power. But before we bolt this engine in the car, a few things have to happen first, such as fitting our Haltech ECU. This is a Sport GM plug-in, and Haltech has done a plug-in ECU for the VN Commodores since the 90s. Of course, it's had a few upgrades over the years. This isn't the computer that they had in the 90s. So this is one of their Platinum Series computers, and we'll open the box up, have a look. So there we have it, the Sport GM plug-in. It's got the factory connection points built into the back. It's got a built-in map sensor that's good for up to 22 PSI boost, and an auxiliary connection point for extra inputs and outputs if we should need them. Also has USB connector for loading maps and so forth and tuning, and a CAN bus connection. Well, it's not a CAN bus connection, but it uses an adapter to a CAN bus connection, which comes in the packet, like so. You can plug them in. Now we have a CAN bus. In fact, I used this computer's great-granddaddy in my original VN build back in the early 2000s. It was a Series 1 V6. We turbocharged that and it ran 11.9 with an E6 GM plug-in. So this is the new series. Obviously it's going to work a lot better. It's already got a V6 map loaded in it, so why don't we plug it in and see if it starts. Okay, so Kian is about to plug in the computer. You can go ahead.
So, should be all good, Maestro.
Go ahead. All right, he's got that plugged in. So, let's see if this fires up. Look at that. Start straight away. How good is that? Plug in for the win. It's probably idling a little bit fast at the moment because it's resetting the idle control valve to suit the computer's new settings, but yeah, that is pretty awesome. Plug and play. But before we get into swapping the engine over, we've got some maintenance stuff to do. So we've got to change the front wheel bearings. They're a bit growly. And we've also got to replace the fuel pump because it's decided to pack it in. So we've got this Raceworks E85 capable fuel pump. It does 340 litres per hour, which is pretty damn stout. So let's see how much fuel is left in this thing and how much we can spill on ourselves. Being a late 80s car and not something more modern, changing the fuel pump is a little bit more difficult than, say, the AU, where we change the fuel pump through the boot, or, you know, many cars you lift the back seat out and you change the fuel pump through a little port or portal under the seat. Here we're going to change it straight out of the front of the tank, and it's on the lower side of the tank. So if you've got a lot of fuel in the tank, when you undo this, you're going to get covered in fuel. I got a feeling it was pretty low on fuel. Let's find out. Okay, well, that looks promising. Nothing to say that it's not a blind hole though. Okay, let's disconnect that. Although I can smell fuel, so maybe it is below that level. I haven't done a VN fuel pump for like 17 years, I reckon. Now, the thing with VN fuel pumps is they can go in pretty much any way. There's like 5 equal spaced holes, and I remember, this is going back a long way, the first time I did it, I put the pump in the wrong way, so when it got to half a tank of fuel, the car died. So makes sense to make a note of which way the pump went in, so when you pull it out and put it back in again, it goes in the right way. There we have it. All right. Take it over the bench, change the pump over, and hopefully it's not going to be too painful. Wow, it's only tiny. Thought we might have been lucky there for a second, but nope. So what we might do is, because this doesn't fit on there, that's the joiner for the pump and the pipe, because it doesn't actually fit on our pump, we'll just replace that with a very short length of E85 capable hose, a couple hose clamps, of course our filter on the bottom. So we have hit a bit of a snag with our fuel pump install. Now this little piece usually connects our fuel pump to our hard line, but I'm pretty confident that's not E85 safe, so it'll probably die pretty quickly if we immerse it in pure E85. So we need to find some E85 capable hose, submersible hose, not just capable, submersible hose that can go from there to there. We have this stuff, but it's way too long, and then we can't even shorten this hard line so it'll work. So I need to buy some submersible rubber hose. And long story short, the only place that seems to carry it is Repco, and the only shop that has it is in Shepparton, which is about 3 hours drive away. I'm not driving 3 hours to go get a hose. So we're getting it sent down. It'll be here in a day or two. We will do it then. So in the meantime, we're going to have to move on to something else. Maybe like wheel bearings. Since we bought the car, we've noticed the front wheel bearings are a bit grumbly. You certainly hear it out on the freeway, so Seems like good as time as any to replace them. Interesting little repair job there. Well, that's interesting. The grease looks pretty fresh. The split pin looks very new. Makes you wonder how old they actually are. This side's got a little bit of movement. Maybe this is the noisy side. Yeah, maybe when you spin that up to 100 k's an hour, maybe that's where the noise is coming from. Oh, oh, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't actually sound that great. And it's binding up a little bit. Wow, that bearing actually doesn't look that great. I don't think they actually packed it with grease properly, whoever did it. I mean, it doesn't even rotate cleanly. Oh, you can actually feel it. Replacing wheel bearings is one of the simplest jobs you can do on a car. Well, maybe that's stretching things a little bit, but basically we've got to punch out the old bearing race. There she goes. I was doing wheel bearings at 16 or younger, so pretty much anyone with a half of a degree of mechanical aptitude can do their own wheel bearings. Okay, wipe some of this old grease out of here. So your typical wheel bearing consists of an outer race and a tapered bearing set. So we'll grease that up in a sec, but this basically gets knocked into there. So let's grease up our bearing. So whack a heap of grease on your palm and then just start kneading it. You can see it starting to push through from the back side to the front side. Once you see it push through, just rotate and continue. And do that until you've got grease coming through all the way around. You can do this on bare palms if you want, but gloves makes it slightly easier and a lot less messy. Alright, so there's our two bearings all greased up. We'll knock that in, put it all together. Exactly the one. So it seems I've been doing this wrong for like 35 years. In the past, I'd use like the old bearing cup turned upside down, or actually that way, so you got something to hit against the back. Knock the old race in, like so. But from here and Forbes, you can get this beautiful little bearing and seal driver kit, and it makes the job so much simpler. So I've already pulled out the requisite size It's like they knew someone would be using these on several 100,000 Commodores. Because it is the perfect size. That is in. It's as simple as that, really. We've got our greased bearing. We'll sit her in there. And then we have a seal, which goes on the back. Now the seal doesn't lock in there. It will just as easily sit on the axle itself, but we know when we push that home, it'll be all the way on. So just to stop that falling out on the floor, let's sit that aside, turn it over and repeat. Get the old grease out, even though it doesn't look too bad. Make sure it's pure Valvoline, only the best. Alright, so it's a little bit on the tight side at the moment, but that's fine, it'll free up with a couple Ks. Okay, so the torque measurements are 80 to 90 Newton meters. Why it's not a precise figure, I don't know, but 80 to 90 plus 45 degrees of turn. So torque them up and then go on it as well. Just give us a figure. All right. So there plus, no wonder that's so fucking tight. Back when we first bought the car, we thought someone had retrofitted VL Turbo Calais wheels to it, but turns out these were the standard fitment on Series 1 VN Berlinas, so I guess we'll stick with them after all. Doesn't make any noises now. Alright, we'll get it down and we'll torque it up on the ground. Let's do the other side. You didn't think I was just gonna forget that, did you? And that is officially job done. So here we are back with our fuel pump. Last time we tried to install this, we didn't have the right fuel hose and no one had it locally, so we had to get it specially ordered. It's here now. And this is the good stuff, Gates submersible hose. So it's going to sit in basically fuel for the rest of its life, so it needs to be pretty hardy stuff. Just can't use normal fuel hose, it will just expand and come apart within months. So you need the right stuff. And now we have it. We only need like a little section about yay long, but it's always good to have a little bit more. Anyway, we'll get this in, change your little wiring plug as well, and away we go. That's all we needed. Get on there. Because these pumps locate differently, I'm going to have to grind that out round. So I'm going to have to get a die grinder in there and just sort of carve it out a bit, see how we go. Alrighty, let's see how badly we can hack this up. Whoa. Do a test fit. Oh, look at that. Nice. All right. Just blow some air through that thing. Give it a bit of a fire. Maybe cool it down. We'll be right to go. Alright, that's fully seated, so that part is ready to go. So now we just need to change the electrics, because the part that plugs into the pump is different to this. So basically purple's going to be our power wire and black's going to be, I presume, the earth. So now we just need to connect those up, plug it in, put it in, we'll have a working fuel pump. So to connect our wiring, we're just going to use these little straight crimp connectors. Done it many times, never had a problem, so I don't see it being a problem this time. Okay, so they'll reach around and plug there. So I'm just going to space the connections out slightly so they're not side by side. So we'll put the next one probably there. Okay, wrap it back around, plug him in, click, and that is pump done, ready to go. Let's drop it in the car. Okay, well that all feels pretty solid, nice and together. So we'll feed her up here into the tank. Line up our holes, we'll get our little screws out. Do her up. Okay. Click. Click. I might cable tie that in place. And we're done. Let's see if she starts. I hear a fuel pump whirring. Beautiful. So here we are, back at max performance with the VN. It's got a new fuel pump. It's got a Haltech ECU, but it's only got a baseline map, so we're not expecting miracles out of this thing. So the beauty of the Haltech is that Zane will be able to work his magic, get in there, adjust the tune, give it more timing, give it more or less fuel, whatever it needs, and maybe find a little bit more horsepower. So we're going to have a fiddle with this thing, see what we can get out of it, and then it'll be time to tear that engine out. Let's see what it runs on the dyno. So last time we were down here, you can see that the air-fuel ratio was quite lean, and that was a sign that the fuel pump was going to die, and it did actually die on us. So hopefully now with the new fuel pump, it's going to bring those air-fuel ratios down into the right zone, bring our power up somewhere into the 3 digits, we hope. Yeah, that'd be the dream. The dream. Okay, well you've got to remember that the Haltech only has a baseline map in it, so the fuel and timing maps have not been optimised at all. So Zane's going to get in there, have a bit of a play with those, bring the power up to basically where it was and hopefully, maybe, beyond. So we are starting to get there. Air fuel ratio is coming down. Forget that figure, that is a peak figure. That's at the start of the run. We're talking about the end of the run, which is about 12.3 to 1, which is pretty good. It's coming down. Before it was way up into the 13s, which was not good at all. Creeping up, she's creeping. It's actually only just half a kilowatt from its PB, so that's not too bad. Yes! 3 digits, 100 kilowatts, that's awesome. All right, let's pull the air filter out. Take advantage of this bell now. Yeah. We'll see how much it makes now. So how's that for a gain? Another 5.5 kilowatts. We did say it wasn't going to make 1,000,000 horsepower, but that is a good, respectable gain. It is gained everywhere throughout the rev range, and the air fuel has richened right up because we've got that new pump in there. So it's no longer running into this sort of danger zone. It was a bit lean before. So it's fat, it's healthy, it's happy, and now we're going to tear the engine out and put a supercharger in there. More power. And you'll see all that on a future episode of Carnage. It just goes to show how good these things can be. No, it doesn't. It doesn't show that at all.